Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm Andy RC and today I'm taking a look at the Holybro Kopis or Kopis 2 SE. So previously on the channel I reviewed the Kopis or Kopis version 1 and it was a very popular model. There was just a couple of things that I picked up on. The first one was the fact that the motors were not a premium motor. They were a premium brand, but they were definitely lacking in terms of power. Another problem that I had with this one is that the antenna was in the downward facing position and I was getting really poor reception, and it could have done with a TPU 3D printed mount really to have it coming up above. But I liked everything else about it. I liked the price. It's got a nice camera up the front there, very strong, and you could fit a GoPro on the top of it. So now we have the version 2 and it has got all of the top spec components pretty much. An interesting choice is the frame, specifically the material. This time they have gone with a carbon fiber arm with a foam blend. So if you look very closely, we do have sheets of carbon in here, but it's also got foam blended in with it, which supposedly makes it lighter but just as strong. And if I just try and bend these arms there, yeah, they do seem fairly strong. There's a tiny bit of flex, but nothing I'd be too worried about. So yeah, interesting choice there. This copter weighs 306 grams, and that is with its battery strap and with its propellers. And with these being a 2.3 stator motor, I would say that actually that is a pretty light setup for a racer. Now with this version, I'm sad to say that there is no GoPro mount provided. And when I take a look at the PIDs that have come with this, I think this is designed to fly without a GoPro. Alright, you could put your own mount on there, but yeah, I really like the fact that this one came with a mount. So let's talk about the specs. We have got, this time for the motors, they are the T-Motor F40 Pro 2. They are the 2400 kV version. Now, I've said this a lot in my previous videos, but I've always struggled with the 2.3 stator size on a race copter when it comes to top end. However, I think these 2.3 stator motors, they have a lot of low end power and torque, and I think that is what racers need, because you're never going to get to your top speed on a race course anyway. So maybe that is the reason for going for these 2.3 stator motors. But anytime I've sort of said, you know, the 2.3 stator motor is overkill, everyone has said, well, try the T-Motor F40 Pro. So there we go, we can do that with this. The propellers are probably my favorite freestyle prop. They are the Dell prop. They are the T5046C. So this motor as a racer could go higher than that. So I would say that this is a freestyle prop, and you are given some spares of those. So yeah, it comes in the Holybro sort of laptop case. We just have a single sheet with the parts on there, so no instructions. We have got a spare set of those propellers. So next, let's take a look at actually the underneath of the frame as well. So it's got a nice thick silicon mat for your battery, and we have got some recessed screws here, so the battery shouldn't be forced into any screws, which I'm a fan of. We've got a Holybro strap here. Let's see if it is the grippy kind. Sort of, yeah, it's sort of rubberized on the other side there, so I don't think it's going to sling a battery. The frame looks very similar to the Floss, doesn't it? So that's interesting. Yeah, so just got these two standoffs here, and then if we take a look at the guts, so these are 32-bit ESC, so it's a 4-in-1. It's the Teco 32 35 amp ESCs. It's got full telemetry hooked up. We don't have a low ESR capacitor on here, but just check out all of those capacitors already on there. So be interesting to see if we have any noise issues. I always say this, you know, when I see a big capacitor on the back of an ESC, I always think, you know, well, they just couldn't fit them on the ESCs. And if there are enough capacitors already on the ESC, then there's no need for a huge one on the back. The flight controller is the Kokite F7. It is 32 kilohertz capable, although strangely enough, it was set up only for 8K and 2K. The setup was pretty good, actually. It only had a couple of things missing, which I thought was unusual. It didn't have anti-gravity, and it doesn't have dynamic filters turned on. But the on-screen display was all set up nicely. This is the bind and fly version, so it's come with a RXSR, and full telemetry was already set up on it, so I just had to discover sensors on my Tyrannus. The only slight downside I would say is that with it being the RXSR, it's very difficult to access the bind button. Had to get a hex driver in there and sort of jam it in, and then plug in the USB, and actually the receiver does power up from the USB on there. So yeah, a little tricky to bind, but all of that was set up. I have added RSSI as well on channel 8, so you have to go in there and add it as an output to one of the channels, and then you can add the RSSI. Yeah, ESC telemetry all set up, didn't have to do anything. So yeah, we've got a current meter in there. As I say, setup was pretty nice. Just one other odd thing, the digital idle, so the motor idle speed was set at 2%, and I think if you use their stock rates, you're definitely going to get a flip of death, because when you go to the far extreme of the stick, I think it's going to cause some of the motors to have to stop to reach that rate, and then of course the flight controller can't react quick enough and you get a flip of death. So I've upped that to 6%, but yeah, actually pretty impressed with the setup. It came with Betaflight version 3.41, I think. Then we have got the VTX, it's the Atlatl V2, so I've reviewed this separately on the channel actually. So yeah, 40 channels. It says it goes up to 800 milliwatt, but when I tested it with my power meter, it went just above 500 milliwatt, I think. Smart audio is connected up already and it's set up, so you know, no need to mess around with buttons and things like that. And then the camera is a Runcam Micro Swift V1, which is, you know, it's a CCD camera. It has got the 2.3mm lens. I prefer the 2.1, but I'm sure it's going to be absolutely fine. Just a small complaint regarding the antenna placement. So they fitted this, it came with these cable ties on, just a little bit long. I can see that getting in the prop. And then finally we have got the antenna. So it's come with a Foxeer Lollipop, which I like. It's a really decent antenna, but again, it's in the downward facing position. Now I know why they do this. It's because, you know, in a crash it's the safest place and it's not going to get broken. However, I do think I'm going to have the same reception problems in that when the copter is facing towards you like that, then you're just not going to get great reception. Even though the copter's going to be sat upright like that, I don't know, I just didn't get good reception with the previous version, and I again would prefer maybe a TPU printed mount to sit on these standoffs, and you'll have a bit of flex, alright, it could get damaged in the props or whatever, but I would choose great reception over, you know, a lot of breakup and just having my antenna safe. But that is just my opinion. So let's take a look at the extra little bits that you are given. You've got a frequency chart there, which don't really need because using smart audio. We have got the Runcam download manual thing. We have got the controller for the Runcam. And let's just have a look. We've got some more cable ties and some more heat shrink. We have got the instruction manual for the RXSR, and this looks like a spare cable for the IMU. So yeah, it's a floating IMU on this one on a bit of foam. So yeah, spare one of those. Let's just take a look. So we've got some spare wires. That's like a servo wire for a receiver. I guess that would be for a plug and fly version. And what have we got here? This looks like another camera cable or something like that, all silicon wires, and then that is the adapter for the camera controls. We've got some spare recessed screws here and also some washers, and we have got a sticky pad here for something as well. So yeah, really nice top-notch package. I think this is going to be competing against the HLRC Batman 220, which is my current favourite bind and fly. And, you know, the HLRC Batman, it doesn't quite have the top specs of this. However, it just flew superb. So sometimes the way a model flies is more important than, you know, the spec of it. Because I think the HLRC Batman only has the MPU 6000. And this one can go up to 32 kilohertz. That one only 8K. But, you know, the proof is in how it performs in the sky. Okay, there's just a couple of other things that I want to show you. So, as this comes with the RXSR with SmartPort already connected and set up, I have put Lua scripts on one of the pages. So if I long press page, and you should see I've got all of the PIDs there, and I'm actually interested to see what power output and what channel the VTX is on out of the box. So I'm just going to just move over to that. So yeah, it's on Fat Shark 1 and 25 milliwatt, and that is all working. And lastly, I just want to point out that this one does actually have something missing compared to the original. Can you spot it? So we don't have an LED board. There is a buzzer, and it is just down here. It is glued in, but I thought that was worth a mention, although I don't think you can buy this version anymore. Alrighty, let's have a go at flying this guy line of sight. Just a couple of clicks of throttle to get it in the air, but that's because I've set the digital idle at 6%. Oh, it's a windy day here today. Let's check out the punch. Yeah, absolutely mad, which is to be expected. We've got top spec everything here. Let's try a bit of acro. Everything seems to be fine. What I'm looking for is jitters and wobbles, and I'm not seeing that whatsoever. Let's see what the sound is like. Now, whilst I was too close to myself there, the telemetry packed in, so I need to be careful with that because it was overpowering the telemetry on the receiver. So yeah, don't get these things too close. So this is a 1500 GMB 4S battery, and it seems to be flying nice like that. Now, just lately I've been seeing reviewers very subtly and very unsubtly having a go at other reviewers. So just while I do this, can we just say that, you know, everyone has got and is entitled to their own opinion, and can we all just be friends, please? How about this? How about we challenge each other instead? Now, this is a challenge to everyone, not just reviewers, because I'm not seeing anyone else do this. How about a power loop line of sight? I've not seen anyone do this in any other video. So that is my challenge to everyone. You go into acro, you put forward momentum in, lift up like you would a normal power loop, and then back around. I started doing this when I realized that there's some FPV moves that we do that we don't do line of sight. So I thought, why not just start doing them? So there's the power loop, that is sort of like the 4-point roll. Got to get that done before it hits the ground. And then I quite like doing these half maneuvers as well. You know, your hesitation maneuvers, and, you know, backflips and stuff. So that is my challenge to you, and everyone else, be nice to each other. And this thing, yeah, it seems to be behaving nicely. Tons of punch, and yeah, I've already tested the video and we're getting clean video, so those capacitors on there on the ESCs, doing the job at filtering the noise, so that's looking good for the FPV flight. So I think it's time to bring it in for a landing. Alrighty, let's take a look at some DVR footage, and because this is a racer, then let's get and just check out what its speed is like. Now, what was interesting about this is I actually felt like I ran out of field, and I've never felt that before. Usually most copters can get up to speed by the time I get to those trees. This one wants to go more. Can you see 95 mile per hour? I'm having to stop, otherwise I will hit the tree. And other copters tend to find at that point you can feel a sag, and then you have to come off the throttle. This one, it just felt like it could kept going. So even though its top speed was high, it was kind of like a slow accelerator, I guess you would say. So yeah, I pushed myself further back, and yeah, it went 96 mile per hour, a little bit faster. So while I'm flying, I'm thinking, right, I need to get the biggest run up that I possibly can. I think I tried here, but no, not quite. So I thought I'll turn around, because it's reading like 30 mile per hour while I mess around. I wanted as big a run up as possible, and then full whack until it starts to sag, and it read 101 mile per hour, and that was the fastest that I could get it to go. So yeah, it's a fast machine, this, and I have no doubt that if we put some heavier pitch props on there, then it will be going into the hundreds. I think the Hawk 5, it's an interesting one, the Hawk 5 with its AVAN props, because that consistently was hitting 106 mile per hour, and it's got a much smaller stator, so the 2206, lower KV as well. But you can see there, yeah, it was a windy day here as well, I should mention, and this is almost completely into wind, so it's got that going against it. One thing I thought was interesting was the amp draw. It's definitely hitting over 100 in some cases, you know, so heavy on the amps. This is a 4S 1500 milliamp battery. I wouldn't bother with a 1300 milliamp battery on this copter. I don't think it's going to be able to provide enough amps, so yeah, go with the bigger battery and you'll get more speeds. So let's talk about the copter. The breakup wasn't bad, actually, really surprised. That's probably to do with the fact that it's a lollipop antenna, so better antenna, and I'm using diversity, and yeah, just 25 milliwatts here, and the copter's facing me, and I'm not getting much breakup. So yeah, pretty impressed with that, I have to say. So I think this is probably one of the most feature-packed copters out there. You know, when it comes to bind and fly, we've got the RXSR, we've got the full telemetry, full 32-bit, does absolutely everything. So do I prefer it than the HDLRC Batman 220? And the answer is, it's so tricky to answer. I think the Batman still wins it for me, because the Batman seems to fly a little bit smoother. When I was flying this around, you see the tune's not quite there. I mean, it's okay for a racer, but it felt a little bit twitchy, a little bit jaggedy. Again, that could be the rates, and yeah, I'm just seeing if there's any mid oscillations there. There wasn't, because I tried it with the props off. No oscillations there, but it just didn't feel as smooth as the Batman. So that is my conclusion. If you want a copter out of the box that does absolutely everything, and it's the top spec of everything, then this Kopis or Kopis 2 has it. But for a better flying, smoother copter, I think the Batman has it there as well. You know, so let's take a look at the flight time. We're just coming up to 4 minutes, ragging it. So yeah, I'll leave it there. And as always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.